How is it going, ladies and gentlemen? Mad Starcaven here. I hope you are having a fantastic Friday morning. 2021 is here. I hope you're having a great new year so far. Hopefully this year is a hell of a lot better than last year. For some of us it might have been good, for some of us it might have been bad, but that is not important, because today we are talking about the biggest question, the question that we all must answer. Is the PS5 better than the Xbox Series X? To avoid wasting your time, to answer that question straight away, it really does depend on what you're looking for in a console and what games you play. That is the simple answer. Before you watch this video, I highly recommend you check out my last video where I compared the PS5 to the Xbox Series X. In that video, I missed a couple of things, including the controller and the accessories, and I will cover those in this video towards the end, so please stick around for that. But starting off, there is a number of key things that I'd like to examine regarding the PS5 versus the Xbox Series X. First off, which console is more silent? Now, I've linked in the description article from Tom's Hardware, and according to this article, the PS5 is ever so slightly louder than the Xbox Series X. So, according to this article, the Xbox Series X at idle only gets to 35.3 decibels, and when under load, it gets to 37 decibels. The PS5, when it's idle, is 37.1 decibels, and when it's at performance mode for Spider-Man Miles Morales, it can hit up to 40 decibels. Now, you might look at that and go, 5 decibels, that is so much. It must be the loudest console imaginable. How does the PS5 even compete with the Xbox Series X? When you have your headset on, of course, you probably won't even hear this sound. And if you have a surround sound system and you got it blasting, you will definitely not hear that sound for either console. So regardless of which console you buy, you're going to get a quiet system. Now for me personally, the PS5 has experienced some coil whine, and the Xbox Series X does also experience some coil whine, but you won't notice it under a lot of circumstances, and if you have ongoing coil whine, there's a most likely a problem with your unit and it's an isolated incident. But both consoles are quiet enough to call this a tie. But objectively, the Xbox Series X is technically the quieter console. Next thing I'd like to address is the big elephant in the room, which is exclusives. Now, everyone loves to brag about exclusives and how that makes their piece of plastic more special than the other piece of plastic. And I say this for both Xbox and PS4 fans. Now, I cannot say this clearly enough. Exclusives only matter if you plan on playing those exclusives. For example, if you are a Halo fan, then obviously you want to buy the Xbox Series X so you can play Halo Infinite when it eventually gets released, or the Halo Master Chief Collection. If you're a Horizon Zero Dawn fan, then obviously you're going to get the PS5. Ultimately, exclusives are relevant as far as what exclusives you will play. So I will say that Sony has a lot more first-party titles on their system in terms of variety. So you have Horizon, Until Dawn, Uncharted, The Last of Us, to name a few. But that doesn't mean that they're better per se. They're only better if you plan on playing them. Objectively, they are good games, but I often see that people say that Xbox exclusives are bad compared to PS4 exclusives. I guarantee you, if you're a Gears of War fan, you think Gears of War is the greatest thing ever. If you're a Halo fan, you think Halo is great. That doesn't mean that they're good games, that doesn't mean they're bad games, it means you're a fan of those games. At the end of the day, you can be objective about it, but people will buy, and I recommend that you buy what you want to play. So you buy that console that has the games that you want to play. Exclusives matter to you as an individual and what you're going to play. And just a quick note on exclusives, there are quite a few good exclusives coming up on the Xbox Series X. You have Halo Infinite, which was delayed till 2021, which we are now in. Hopefully it's good. I have a PC, so I'll buy it on PC, but for Xbox Series X owners, that looks like one of the major first-party games that are coming out. You have Fable coming out, you have State of Decay 3, Forza, Elderwind, Arrowhead, As Dusk Falls, Stalker 2. There are a lot of first-party games coming out to Xbox Series X. Now currently you can't buy either console, hence why I say in the future that these games are coming out. Because on PS5, there's only a couple of exclusives that are really worth playing. So Astro's Playroom comes with the the console, and it's more of a tech demo to show you the adaptive triggers on the PS5 controller. Demon's Souls, which is technically a remake of a PS3 game. You got God of War Ragnarok, which is coming out next year, but we haven't seen any gameplay yet. Now there's a large catalog of PS4 exclusives that you can play on your PS5, but rushing out to buy a PS5 just so you can play those games on your PS5 isn't technically a sensible option, and something I wouldn't recommend doing anyway. I'd probably wait and see until the console's kind of matured a little, maybe goes down in price, becomes more widely available, and then I believe that will be the best time to buy a PS5. Now the next thing I want to talk about is the controller. So the PS5 has a new controller. Now the controller really is an ingenious piece of tech. It has haptic feedback, adaptive triggers, and they really do make a difference to your gameplay experience. However, there's only 21 or 22 or so games that support the feature as of right now in 2021, the 1st of January. And if you're going to buy the console based on that, you got to own those games as well, obviously. And I don't feel like that's a massive selling point. Like, it's a nice thing to have. It doesn't make it better than the Xbox Series X controller, however. The Xbox Series X controller is still very comfortable, very ergonomic. It's a follow-up for the Xbox One controller, which I personally love and enjoy. And new technology requires some time to mature and for all those kinks to be ironed out. And I say that because if you go on Reddit right now, there is reports of the PS5 controller, those triggers at the back breaking, and that obviously is not good. Your brand new controller breaking after 2 months because you clicked down a little too hard is not ideal. And I feel like this is another thing about being an early adopter, that you should just wait until the PS5 matures, maybe wait a year, maybe half a year, just wait till all these issues are ironed out. Now, does that new controller mean that it's better than the Xbox Series X? Not necessarily. They're both really good controllers, but until you get more widespread support for the haptic feedback and adaptive triggers, at this point, it's not really a massive selling feature. Maybe 2 years down the track when every game supports it, then I consider that a massive selling feature. But as of right now, I would just take the wait and see approach when it comes to the PS5 controller. In the description, I'll also leave a link to a list of PS5 games that support DualSense and haptic feedback and adaptive triggers. So that way you can see how it improves over time, which I'm sure it will as more games get released and support the feature. Next thing I'd like to talk about is the Game Pass. The Game Pass really is a big selling feature for the Xbox Series X, especially in terms of value. So for console, you get 355 games on the Game Pass as of right now. On PC, you only get 228, and I saw that as a point where you can get the Game Pass on PC. However, it doesn't have as many games, and I feel like PC is not relevant when I'm talking about both consoles. Now, I did mention in my previous video, if you own a very expensive PC, then buying a PS5 is something you may consider. But for the purposes of comparing two consoles together, PC is kind of irrelevant because it doesn't compete in terms of value for money, in my opinion, especially here in Australia. In Australia, you can buy both consoles for $1,500, and then say you want to buy a couple of games for the PS5, that's $100, $200. If you buy them on sale, it's $100. And then for the Xbox Series X, you can then just buy a $15 Game Pass and you have all these games available. That is an excellent value that just can't be matched by PC, because PC you're spending $3,000 for something that's equivalent specs to, say, a PS5 or an Xbox Series X. Then you have to buy a monitor, peripherals, and I'm talking about brand new here, because consoles right now, I'm talking about you buying them brand new. So when all this tech becomes more widely available, there's no way that PC competes with consoles when it comes to value for money. Hence why I'm comparing the PS5 to the Xbox Series X in terms of value and what you really want from your gaming experience. So the Xbox Game Pass really is an excellent value when you compare the two. And I saw someone compare the Xbox Game Pass to PS Now. PS Now isn't even available in Australia right now, and that's kind of disappointing in my opinion. I went to the website this morning to have a look at it. It's just not available, and it's more of a streaming service, whereas the Xbox Game Pass download games straight to your console, whereas PS Now is a streaming service, so they're not apples to apples comparisons regardless. And the Xbox Game Pass really has matured and has all the kinks ironed out here. Whereas the PS now feels like something that Sony has kind of neglected and just kind of forgotten about. Now if Sony made something like the Game Pass, I feel like they will compete very strongly with Xbox. I feel like that's something they can do financially. Whether they want to or not is up to them. Another thing I'd like to mention is VR. VR is a very niche technology as of right now. It's been out for a couple of years, but it still hasn't gained a wide selection of games or support from developers. And as of right now, the best experience that you get for VR is probably on PC, but that requires expensive hardware. PSVR, I wouldn't consider that something that makes it the PS5 better than the Xbox Series X. It's something that adds value to it if it interests you. But if you have no interest in playing VR games, then it's really not important when talking about PS5 versus the Xbox Series X. The final thing I wanted to talk about in this comparison is Xbox being better than PS5 in terms of specs. So the Xbox Series X is technically better than the PS5 ever so slightly in terms of specs. See my previous video for more information. If the games run better on the Xbox Series X versus the PS5, that really comes down to developer optimization. I see PS5 fans saying that a lot of games run better on the PS5. That comes down to developers not putting the time and effort into optimizing the games. That has nothing to do with the Xbox Series X being less or more powerful. The same thing would go if the developers didn't spend enough time optimizing PS5 games. I would say the exact same thing. This has nothing to do with a console being less powerful or more powerful than the other console. It's got to do with game optimization. Now, to reiterate a point that I made in my last video, towards the end of this console generation, you may see a gap open up between the Xbox Series X and PS5. Again, that really does depend on the developer optimization and what games are going to come out towards the end of this generation. But as of right now, we don't know that, and both consoles should perform pretty evenly. You won't notice the difference between both consoles in terms of performance or graphical fidelity at this point. Alright, to wrap up, at the end of the day, the PS5, the Xbox Series X, buy both consoles if you can afford them when they're in stock. Okay? If you have no interest in gaming on PC, then buy both consoles if you have the money and you just want to get the best experience for the next 10 or so years in gaming. It's great value for money in terms of what you get. You get ray tracing support on $750 hardware, Australian, and ultimately both consoles are very good in their own right. Neither console is technically better or worse than the other. I know that will upset some fans of either console that would love me to say that the PS5 is better or the Xbox Series X is better, but I don't buy into the hype or the fanboy arguments. I would personally get both consoles and call it a day, but that is just me personally. At the end of the day, which console you buy really depends on what games you want to play, which you like the look of better. Do you like PS5? Do you like the Xbox Series X? Do you own an Xbox One? Do you own a PS4? These are all questions you've got to ask yourself. For example, if you bought all your games on PS4, then you should probably buy a PS5 because you'll have all those games backwards compatibly and you won't lose any of them. Same thing goes for Xbox One. If you have an Xbox One, you have all your games on your Xbox One, get an Xbox Series X. That is my personal recommendation. The last thing I want to talk about is the accessories for both consoles, and they both have a good selection of accessories. I like the accessories for the PS5, they look very sleek and modern. However, whether you buy them or not is up to you, personal preference. They do add a bit of value to the console. Obviously, they come with a bit of a price premium, but I do like the PS5 remote. It's very modern and sleek. And I do like the accessories that you can just port over from your Xbox One to Xbox One Series X. That is a very consumer friendly move and Microsoft should be applauded for that. Anyway, this video has gone on for way too long. Thank you for watching up to this point if you have. The gameplay you've been watching ironically is Horizon Zero Dawn, but not running on PS4, it's been running on PC. I love it so far. If you like this video, please leave a like. As of right now, I'm trying to upload every second day or so while I'm on vacation. But enough of that. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you next time.